Back here on SportsLine, our phone lines are open 737-7767. You want to talk about Tennessee's big win over Alabama, we can do that. You want to talk about the news today of the Titans' new stadium deal, we can do that as well. Again, a $2.1 billion stadium to be built just east of Nissan Stadium. The Nissan Stadium will be leveled when the Titans move in to the new digs. It will be a roofed stadium, a translucent roof, which will bring in natural light, but it will be enclosed to make sure that they are able to host the big events that they want to be able to host in that building. It'll be 55 to 60,000 seats, which would be right now the smallest venue in the NFL, but the experiences within the venue are going to be much, much improved, as should be the sight lines and how close you can get to the action. In terms of the outer part, parking is going to change significantly, but the Titans hope, as well as the city, that the experience and the East Bank development around the stadium will make you feel much, much better about the situation, and hopefully transit will be taken care of in that as well, as they try to re-envision how people get down to the stadium and have their game day experience. Could be a Ole Miss Grove type experience around Nissan Stadium. Here are just a few of my thoughts as I listen to this today. Number one, as a sports fan, I am thrilled that this gets done because Nashville is ready to host all of those events that I talked about, and we have been for a few years. And we've talked about it on this program before, that we'd really kind of capped ourselves at what we could do. We had reached the place where we had done all the major events. We'd brought in all the things. We've created events, frankly, like the IndyCar Grand Prix downtown in Nashville. But in the existing infrastructure, there wasn't really a shot to host one of those sort of Tier A events. Well, now you got that with the new stadium. Now you can get the Super Bowl. Now you can get the College Football National Championship game or a Final Four or WrestleMania, all those sort of things. That is huge for the reputation, for the pocketbooks of so many people in this city. So that's big. It's also, by the way, good for the Titans to have a stadium that will just be nicer for their fans to have that experience 10, 11 times a year. TSU football will play up to 4 games there at the new stadium, just like they have for many years in Nissan Stadium. That's a benefit for the public university in this town. All of that, I think, is good. One of the things I've said on this program many times, though, and I know we've had people call in about it, and I'm curious what you think after hearing this deal. I know a lot of people out there do not like the idea of any public funds going into building a stadium like this. As I laid out, it's pretty much the reality in most places. When I look at this deal, I am impressed at the deal that Mayor Cooper got done for the city of Nashville. The state is committed to paying $500 million. The city will pay these bonds to help make sure the construction cost gets covered, along with that $500 million and what the Titans will pledge, which will be the majority of the construction cost. And any overruns that come in, that's up to the Titans. But all of those bonds that the city's pledging, unlike the money that the state's putting in, unlike the money that the Titans are putting on, the city's getting paid back by a hotel tax increase and by all the sales tax of stadium purchases and in the development around the stadium once it is up and running. And in other cities where this has happened, it has worked very well. The only place that caused them to dip into a reserve fund because they couldn't meet the demands initially was Vegas with their new Allegiant Stadium. And the cause for that was it opened during the pandemic, when their hotels had no one in them and they weren't doing what they normally do or anywhere near what they were going to be projected to do under the deal. So, knock on wood, as long as we don't go back into a 100-year pandemic where everything gets shut down, all of the projections for what Nashville should be able to stand to make off of this should be able to easily pay for what they're doing during the lease time and the bond time and everything that they do financially for this. I'm impressed by the deal that was able to get done. I'm impressed that we're getting a state-of-the-art stadium that isn't going to force your property tax rate to go up or the general sales tax within the city to go up. This stadium is going to be paid for in large part by the Titans, the team that's going to use it the most. That's how it should be. And then it's going to be paid for by the people who use the venue. Seems reasonable. And by the tourists who come into Nashville. And we got a bunch of those. And they keep coming in droves. My guess is a 1% 1% hotel tax increase is not going to deter them from coming. It hasn't in other cities that used it. It's certainly not going to stop them from coming here to Nashville. So I like the deal. I like what's out there. There are some more questions. I know Bob Mendez, who's on the city council, has raised some questions this afternoon about how the city got to the estimate that it got to, that paying out the existing lease in which the city was on the hook for all the renovations and upgrades at the stadium would be $1.75 billion of taxpayer money, up to near $2 billion of taxpayer money, to have to just do those upgrades that they were on the hook for legally. He had said he had seen an earlier estimate that was much lower than that, and he wants to be able to reconcile that. That's certainly understandable. Do your due diligence there. I think everybody can support that. But if the numbers that were laid out this afternoon are legit, it makes a lot of sense for the city to give that up, to put in these bonds, build a new stadium, which is an upgrade, which brings more things to the city, which is a better fit for the team, which secures the Titans stay here for another generation, and get rid of that $2 billion potential liability. So I'm impressed by that. I'm also impressed by what I've been able to gather about the design. I know there are a lot of people out there who are going to be disappointed about the retractable roof. I'm one of them. But I've done a little research, and I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on this tonight and tomorrow. But as I dig into the stadium situation with retractable roofs, as I laid out earlier, most of them around the NFL are closed. You don't get many retractable roofs that are open on game day. So if it's going to cost you $250 million more on a $2 billion stadium to build a retractable roof and you never get to open it, what's the point? So I think the Titans did the next best thing in having a translucent roof. They're going to make it feel like you're part of the outside environment, but you're going to be inside. You're going to be protected from the elements. Just to throw out a little bit more on the numbers of the places that are closed that have retractable roofs, this includes all events. This isn't just football games. But the stadiums in which there are retractable roofs around the NFL, the average amount of time throughout the year that they are open, that the roof is open, is 3% of the time. That's for all events that they do. Concerts, conventions, basketball game, whatever you would put in there. The roof is open 3% of the time. Is that worth an extra $250 million? As much as I would like it to be open when it's 75 and sunny on some of those glorious Sunday afternoons, it's probably not. And so I think the Titans did the next best thing. I'm intrigued to figure out what all the experiences they have lined up for these seats are going to be. I think it could be an incredible experience based off of what we've seen experiences around sporting events and big events in Nashville is going to be. I am fascinated by the concept of having a Grove-like tailgating atmosphere outside Nissan Stadium because let's face it, right now, maybe you've got your tradition, maybe you've gone forever, maybe you've parked in the same parking spot or lot and tailgated with the same people for years and years and years and years. Maybe you have that tradition. But my experience walking around the stadium on game days for a dozen years is that it's not a great tailgating atmosphere. It's just a place you kind of park your car, go in and watch the game. There are much better NFL tailgating places. And we live here in the heart of SEC country, which in my mind is pretty much the king of tailgating country. And you go around, go to Knoxville this past weekend and see what they were doing. Go down to Gainesville and go to a game, or Athens or Tuscaloosa. And as I mentioned, maybe the best scene of it all is the Grove at Ole Miss. And they hope that some of these green spaces can turn into a Grove-like environment around game day with the Titans. That would be really, really cool. So I think there's a lot to like about this deal. All right, our phone lines are still open, 737-7767. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll get to your phone calls, maybe hear a little bit of the question and answer portion with the mayor as well. That's when we return here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.